And as you can see, there's nothing going on as far as definition goes. So they're just very different. The three types we talked about already, the manifestor, the generator, and the projector, are considered solar types. Like somehow we're really imprinted and ruled by the sun in so many ways. And the reflector is what we call the only lunar type. So they have a deeper connection to the planets and the moon in a way, and we'll see why that is when we look at their lunar cycle. So let's see. We have the not self theme of disappointment. We'll talk about that. The signature of surprise, which is an interesting one to dissect also. But when we get to aura, their aura is a resistant and sampling aura. So you would take a look at a reflector chart and you would think, oh, they're the most sensitive beings, they're the most open beings. And it's not really the case. They don't take conditioning in as deep as the projector or the generator does, especially between people. But they do really experience the transit program in a deeper way than any other type does. So when it comes to like human interaction, their aura, we call it the Teflon aura. So they kind of like are able to sample and take in other people's energies, but it doesn't stick to them in the way like a projector will really take it in and digest it and hold on to it. It kind of just slides right off of them. So reflector charts are, yes, they're open, but their aura, again, is kind of this built-in protective mechanism to not condition them deeply from the people around them. And they're really here to be kind of like an agent of the program itself. So when I think about the reflector, it's really someone who just has this deep connection with like the, like the universe in a sense. You could say it's just very, very different. And Ra used to say that there's something that's really impersonal about reflectors. And his example was when they're born, we all look at our parents or like our mother and it's like, oh, there's a deep connection here. This is my mother. And a reflector will look at their mother and they'll just see her as a representation of like mother as a whole, as like a concept. So they just have this kind of like impersonal way that they really see the archetypes and what's happening in this planet as something that's just happening. It's just part of the mechanics of what it is to be here. So really fascinating if you've had a chance to know that you've had reflectors in your life or hang out with them. They're just different, very different creatures, and they think about different things. And I did a reading with this woman once who didn't know she was a reflector, and I pulled her chart up and I was like, wow, okay, she's a reflector. And one of her questions to me was like, what do you think the moon is? Like, I don't think we know what the moon is. I think we think it's something different than it is. And I'm like, do you know that you're a reflector? And she's like, no, I've never looked at my human design type before. So I've had experiences where they're just like interested in other things, like more planetary things. And so that's been really fascinating. But when you think about the mechanics of how centers operate, then when you would get around a reflector, they're wide open. So it would make sense that they're taking in your definition and reflecting it back to you. And this is also really interesting to think about. And I went to a human design conference in New Mexico a few times, and one of the times I stayed in a house with three other people who were attending, and one of them was a reflector. And when I met her, I was like, it was almost like love. It was like, wow, we're so similar, and our sense of humor is the same, and our timing is the same, and like everything was just clicking. It was like I met like my best friend. And then after a while, she would go be with another person in the group, and she would be completely different, like really mirroring the personality and the attitude and the other attributes of another person. And it was like, whoa, it was such a shattering experience for me because I realized like, I'm just seeing myself in this woman. Like she's just really mirroring me back. And that was a pleasurable experience now that I love myself. So you can really see how they do reflect people back to themselves. And that can be a really great thing, or it can be a problem if the other person doesn't like what they're seeing. And she before she found human design, people used to say like she really started to look like the people she was hanging out with. And so she made some collage of like her four best friends, and each picture of them together, she looks like the friend that she's with. It was really trippy to see it like side by side. So they really do reflect in a way back to the person that they're with. And again, if that person likes it, it's great. They can be, really great friends and they're close and things are good. But if they're reflecting back something that is that the other person doesn't want to see, then it can be a problem, and then people can get upset with reflectors. So it can go both ways. Um, Ra talks about the reflector really belonging to like the heart of a community. So they're here to really like find their place within a group, because technically what he was told is like they're here to reflect back to the group if the group is healthy or not. So they really need to find their people. They really need to find their place. And this is why when we talk about reflectors or you do reflector readings, there's a ton of focus on the G center, because it's so important for them to plug into the right space so that they can reflect either a healthy community or a not so healthy community, and they're the ones who get to kind of measure that and show us if we're aware of what's going on. So at the Human Design Conference, it was really interesting because I think we had 7 or 8 reflectors there, and they did like a reflector panel, and we got to ask them all these questions, and um, they were all exhausted and like disappointed and not having a good time. And so to me, I'm like, this is so interesting. Like this conference, this group of people is not set up in a healthy way, is not set up in an aligned way to let projectors have enough rest. And it was just completely like MG energy of pack in as much as we possibly can. It was very chaotic. It wasn't scheduled very, very correctly. And so the reflectors there were having a really tough time. So that was kind of funny. And I asked them that question on the panel. I was like, what do you think of this community? Because you guys seem like you're all tired and angry. And they were. Another thing you'll find with reflectors is that they're typically, well, the ones that I know have been like upset and disappointed with human design itself and the limited amount of information available about reflectors. And all the communities, all the events I've been to, there's always been reflectors there that get like really worked up and really emotional and really like sad that they can't find more information on who they are. And I've spoken to other reflectors who think that it's designed that way, that they're not supposed to have that information, that it wouldn't be helpful to them. And that's one thing you'll find also with reflectors is each reflector is so different than the other one. It's so hard to have any generalized information because I have never met 2 reflectors who had the same outlook on life or who had the same idea about what it was. Like they're all so unique and so different. It kind of is like each one is its own type in and of itself. And I just did a podcast interview with a reflector in my life, and she talked about herself like a portal. Like she's just this void that other people can kind of like come into and then have like quantum leaps in healing, or if they're going a wrong direction, they can be amplified to go down the wrong path even. So she really just saw herself as like this void that yeah, that people tap into or groups tap into, and then different things happening. So I was like, that's really fascinating to think about what that could mean. Um, their strategy is to wait a lunar cycle, which you would think is like, talk about the emotional authority. But if your strategy is you have to wait a month before you then talk about your authority, it's like, wow, how do they have that much patience to actually do that? And so we'll take a look really quickly at why does that strategy exist and what is it actually doing for them? Okay, so here's my friend Alexa's chart. Now, um, because they're so connected to the moon, when we look at a reflector's chart, the lunar cycle is really important because as the moon moves around the wheel for 28 days, it's going to move through all of the gates and then activate different parts of them throughout the month. So the question for the reflector is, who am I today? Because every day they wake up, there's a possibility that they're a generator all of a sudden because the moon moves into gate 50 and now it's linking up her sacral center and she has energy to be able to generate and lean into this part. Other days, the moon moves into gate 8 and now she's a G projector and she experiences this type of energy. So it's not changing her type, obviously, but she's just getting access to these different parts of her based on what the moon is now connecting. So throughout the month, they feel like very different people. And each reflector has a very different cadence of what's going to be conditioned. You know, how often they're going to have sacral energy, how often they're going to have manifesting capacity. It's really dependent on these transits. This is why they really have a deeper connection to the transit field. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. We can really map out a month cycle for a reflector, and they can start to get to know the cadence of when these energies are going to be showing up in their life. And they can really get comfortable with knowing kind of the flow of how their energy operates. And again, there's nothing consistent here, but over the month there is a consistency in what the moon brings to them. So I've had reflectors I've done readings for who uh, have like drawn it all out, like really mapped it out, got into all the gates, and are really having a deeper understanding of how they change over time, and it can be really really helpful for them. I've also been told don't give reflector readings if you're not a reflector, but I don't know. I haven't had a reflector in a long time, and I've given a few readings, and they're all very different. The last one I gave was when I was in Ibiza, and I believe that as a projector, if an invitation comes my way, then I have something to offer these people, you know, regardless of what it is. To me, that would be a mental decision to say no to somebody if it felt right in my body. So she really wanted to just learn more about human design and learn more about her gates and things like that. So it was really more of like a mentoring session than it was me telling her anything about herself, you know, because I think they are really interested in the program and how this all works. So Genetic Matrix and some other things have some really cool tools to see if I can remember. Oh, where was this? Oh no. No, no, no. Oh well. It's gonna get it. Okay, let's see. Shoot, I always forget where it is. Hmm. I should have pulled this up earlier. I just did this the other day. I always forget where it is. Okay, here we go. Okay, cool. All right, so I'll find Alexa. Okay, so this is a chart that will give them a full 30-day look at what's actually happening to them. So here's day one. Here's the gate. This is the gate that's activated by um, by the lunar transit. And then not active, so she doesn't have the 43. The moon's in gate 23, so this is um, not hooking her up. Wait, let's see. Okay, so anything in green is the channel that's created by the moon. So here we see that she has the 1-8 all of a sudden. What the hell did I do here? This is really clunky. Ugh, genetic matrix. He changes this thing like so often that it does not really work a lot of the time. Anyways, you get an idea. They can print out this chart and then really see, okay, here's what gate the moon is in now. If there's a harmonic that's activated, it will show it here, and then that gives them a projector or whatever. So let's see, we can, yeah, and here's type over here. So manifestor. Yeah. Anyways, I don't. It's not important. But this is how they get some sort of consistency that they can start to rely on. Now, think about how like a normal chart works. Probably normal is not a good word, but if you think about a different type, and we all have some definition. So when you have definition, there's automatically for our not self, there's something to compare it to. Here's our home base, and then here's like not our home base, and we have an ability to have a distinction there. When you're a reflector, there's really no definition that you can really compare to. So it's just much more of a um, yeah, I don't even know how to describe that, but you can think about what that must be like to not have definition to be able to rely on or to be able to trust. So this is really why their strategy is to wait a full lunar cycle. As they go through this, different parts of them will be activated. They'll have different insights into whatever the decision is for them. So if they wait a whole month, they've been able to experience all the different energies that they're going to experience throughout the month, and that can give them more clarity around the decision. And I've heard a lot of reflectors say like they already kind of know, and when they wait, it typically um, confirms what they already knew. But it is really helpful to wait a lot of the time, they've said. And when you look at the not self, which is everything to me in human design, reflectors are really the ones that try to be everything. And they can really get lost in the not self of everybody. And kind of like, am I a manifestor, a projector, generator? Like, what am I? Who am I is a really interesting question for these people. Ra also said that they're agents of the program in a way. Like, if they're in the program, they can really be the ones who like can tell if people aren't following the rules. So he was like, if you think about the Matrix, they could be like the agents in the Matrix, where it's like they're identifying people who are trying to leave, and they're like, telling on them or uh, yeah, getting them in trouble, or they can be in an organization like, yeah, the really strict rule followers and making sure that everybody falls in line. Now, if they're awake and they're out of the program and they're living a more aligned life, they can be the ones who really identify what people are ready to leave, what people are ready to wake up. So Ra used to say like reflectors, on the good side, could really be the ones who identify, okay, that person's ready to break free and start to live more as themselves. So they can kind of go both ways, which I've also seen in my time hanging out with reflectors. Some can be like very much caught up in the drama of the group and be the one who's like telling on everybody. And then there's other ones that seem more uh, chill. I've also seen reflectors that were very depressed and upset and angry, and other reflectors that feel like fairies who are just like floating around and so happy and um, Yeah, almost like not of this world in so many different ways. So surprise, to me, surprise is like curiosity. They can get really disappointed when nothing new is happening. In the monotony of the not self life, it's just kind of boring. It's just like, okay, we know what's going to happen here. It's just kind of a mundane life. So anytime that they encounter something that's surprising or something that they weren't suspecting, this is a really, what the reflectors here um, to really represent is that, okay, we don't know everything, even though they are so connected to the program, they can still be pleasantly surprised. And I think it's surprised with people, surprised that people can be awake and that people can be authentic. Any questions about reflectors? I think I'll just stop there because I honestly don't know what else. My experience with each of them has been so different. Yeah, that's all that's coming through at the moment. Okay, now we get to the solution. I don't like the solutions. I'm a third line. I'd rather talk about what doesn't work and how we burn it to the ground. But in human design, strategy and authority, and your inner authority is your inner truth. Where does your inner truth come from? We can look at a chart and see. So here we have the hierarchy. If you're defined in the solar plexus, you have emotional authority. 50% of people have emotional authority. We'll talk a lot about this one. Then, if you don't have your solar plexus defined, but you have your sacral defined, then your sacral authority. This is a much more spontaneous in the moment truth that comes out of the generator's sacral response. If you don't have the solar plexus and you don't have the sacral and you have your spleen defined, then that automatically makes you splenic authority. And these can be manifestors or projectors are the only types that can have splenic authority. Then, if you don't have the solar plexus, the sacral, or the spleen defined, and you have the ego defined, then your ego becomes your authority. Again, this can only be projectors and manifestors, and this is an extremely rare type of authority because you have to have either the 2551 or the 2145. So it's either going to connect to the throat, and we call that ego manifested authority if it's a manifestor that has the ego connected to the throat, and we call it ego projected authority if the ego is connected um, to the G center. So yeah, very rare. We'll talk about this one, an interesting one to have. And then last but not least, if you don't have these four and you just have your G center defined to your throat, this is going to be a G projector or a self-projected projector. And these people can have the head and ajna defined as well. That doesn't make them a mental projector. The mental projector comes when there is either just the head and ajna defined, or head, ajna, and throat, or ajna and throat. So a mental projector can't have any definition below the throat. And then obviously we have the reflector that doesn't have any definition. So this is the hierarchy of authorities, and this is where you'll find, I just call it your inner truth because it can come from anywhere, and depending on what's defined in your chart. And the first thing I really want to say is, um, don't get caught up on trying to figure out if you're making correct decisions or not. If you're splenic like me, don't get caught up in thinking like, is this my spleen? Is this not my spleen? Like, how's my spleen work? Like, we can't, especially with the spleen, there is no ability to really understand why it does what it does. It's so existential. It's so in the moment. So I tell everybody, like, with your inner authority, it's just your inner truth. So start to feel what that is for you. Human design can be a map to show you, okay, are you emotional? We're going to need time to move through these waves before you can come to a decision. But you could be emotional with your sacral and your spleen defined. So you have access to intuition. You have access to your sacral response. So the way that I tell people to deal with this information is look at your signature of your type. If it's recognition and success, take a look at your life. Am I feeling recognized? Am I feeling successful? If you're starting to move that direction, you know that you're making some correct decisions with your inner authority, regardless of what it is. If you're disappointed, if you're angry, if you're bitter, if you're frustrated, okay, I haven't really tapped into that inner decision-making process yet. So those are the two signposts, and that's the only thing that matters to me, is being able to take a look at my life and feel like, am I feeling my signature of my type or am I feeling my not self of my type? And that's going to give me all the information I need to know, which is how I'm making decisions in this life. If you get caught up in the mind trying to figure out how the heck these things work, then it can be a really tough road of wanting to do it perfect, wanting to make only good decisions, and then holding yourself to a standard that you can never get to anyways. Remember, this is the wisdom of the body, and we don't have conscious access to that. So it's really hard. You'll go down so many rabbit holes, and you'll kind of be setting yourself up for failure if your mind is thinking that it's going to figure out how all of this stuff works. So this is definitely more of a feeling kind of thing, more of an experiential kind of thing, learning how it works by actually experiencing the sensations in the moment or over time. So if you're extremely intelligent, it's almost a detriment to living your design, I think, because we're able to really take in so much information and start to try to analyze it and try to get to a point where we think we're going to figure it out. And I'm telling you, it doesn't work. You really don't ever figure it out. It's simply the magic of our body. So many people that I've worked with, especially in the beginning, will take human design and they'll take gene keys and they'll take these things and then they'll set a bar for themselves and then really be their own worst enemy in self-talk or in I should be here already or why is it taking so long or they really set a bar that's not necessarily realistic. And it doesn't allow for waiting and time and experimentation and the softness that it really takes. So the more you can really be gentle with yourself, the more that you can really love yourself when you're in your not self, that alone will start to unlock some conditioning so you can start to feel your body more. So the more we decondition, the more sensitive we become. I really think human design is a process of getting back to the sensitivity levels of when we were kids. That's never supposed to go away until we enter the conditioned world, and it's kind of, you know, conditioned out of us, mentally beaten out of us, shamed out of us, whatever it is. We start to pile all this stuff, and it really kills our sensitivity as humans, and then we don't get to experience all the sensations that are available. So I really think human design is just a process of like, how can we bring that sensitivity back so we can really feel alive again? We can really feel the highs and lows of our emotions. We can really feel deeper connection in our intimacy and all these beautiful things. But if the mind's trying to control it and figure it out, we're not tapping back into that sensitivity. We're actually bringing ourselves further away from it, and it can be very confusing. So the more sensitive I become, the more aware I am when my spleen is making a decision. It's just happened over time. I'm starting to be able to string together some evidence of like, okay, it felt like this last time and I said yes and it worked out really well and I feel recognized and successful. Okay, maybe that's what it is. But to me, this is the experiment. This is where you need to give yourself permission to feel, to mess it up, and to just experience sensation in your body and start to um, piece it together that way instead of trying to intellectually analyze what could it possibly mean, how is it supposed to feel, what is it supposed to look like, and then we're back in the mind and not able to feel these sensations when they come. Okay, so here we have a self-projected or a G projector. We talked a lot about this already. Do you want to share anything, Britt, about what it feels like for you? Have you experimented a lot with your authority?
I have been experimenting, and if I'm being really honest, it still feels weird. Like, I feel like for a lot of people, if you just talk out loud to someone, you'll kind of figure some things out. But I've been experimenting with using like the voice recorder. I've heard that could be a tool for self-projected projectors, but it still feels a little clunky for me. Still
Hmm.
experimenting.
Interesting. What's the theory behind the voice recorder?
Well, yeah, maybe this is a good thing to, because I know some people have different ideas in human design, but the idea with the self-projected I've heard is that when you use your voice, you kind of connect into that G center, and you can't really tap into that unless you're using your voice.
Mhm.
So it's my understanding that the self-projected is you like tap into that through your voice, and then when you're talking to other people,
Mhm.
you can kind of hear your thoughts out loud, or you can hear that center out loud speaking, and that's how you should make decisions. And so if
Mhm.
you don't have another person around and you want to figure something out, that
Mhm.
you should just speak out loud into a voice recorder or figure out a way to still use your voice when you're alone.
Mhm. And what feels clunky about it?
Um, Maybe just making decisions in general. I'm still figuring out how to make decisions in my life. And like you said, like maybe that's not something I figure out. Maybe that's something I just do and go with it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. What does it feel like when you do recognize a truth in a decision that you're making, or is it a knowing? It is a hearing for you when it comes out? You can recognize that this feels right for me.
Um, it just feels like I don't know how to explain it, but I've been trying to figure out like what's self and what's not self, but I really do feel this like soul pull. It just feels like my soul wants something different than what my mind wants or the rest of my body wants, and I can just kind of tap into that G center and it knows what it wants, and I just have to follow it, like with my voice or not. And I think if just saying this out loud right now, it's like I know where I'm going and I just have to follow that,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Sure.
It feels weird sometimes though.
Yeah. Yeah. And is it weird because your mind has an idea of what it wants and the voice is saying something else?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, my G center I think is obviously all about love,
Yeah.
direction, and like I feel this pull towards like kind of the healer realm, and it's like my mind is like what the fuck, dude, like like be realistic. And
Yeah.
so it can be really scary. So it's
Yeah.
this just I can say it out loud and it feels good in my body, but in
Mhm.
the rest of my body it can feel scary too. So I think eventually I'll learn to trust that. I'll learn to trust where it's taking me.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Um, I think that's how it begins for everybody is when you're making correct decisions, it's fucking terrifying. And when I make a correct decision, it's followed by like waves of fear and and resistance, but it's not coming from my body. My body is open. It knows where it wants to go. But it's once I get into my mind and I start to project and think about the possibility or what it's going to require for me to do these things, then it starts to get extremely sensational. And this is why I really focus on this word sensation in tantric practices and in other work I've done. It's all about like tapping into what sensations are in my body. And when we're younger and we're conditioned and we start to limit our sensitivity, we limit our ability to hold sensation and to feel sensation. And so this is like we talk about the defined root, but this can be in the whole body. Like, can I let the pressure build? Like, can I hold how much sensation can I hold in my body? If you can't hold a lot, then we're going to short circuit on, smaller decisions, on scenarios that may not even seem that crazy. We can go into like panic attack or, whatever it is. So it's just our body is not able to hold the sensation required in for this decision or for the next step on your path. And so to me, I think it's also about like practicing this muscle, really working it out, and really getting our body to a place where it can start to hold some bigger and bigger and bigger sensations. So that's a great sign in my opinion. And I told you this last time about the cold plunge. Like, is it my mind that doesn't want to get in, or is it my body? And typically, when the body leads, it's correct, and then the mind comes in after the fact and starts to make it really scary. So that's yeah, great words there about the fear of what it takes to really be us, and with that question of like, what's the hardest part to being yourself? To me, it's like, yeah, just making the decisions that feel correct, because they're typically the scariest, because they're going to require us not to be what Ra always talked about, the background furniture of this movie, which so many people are. He's like, look at all these people out here who are just in the background. They're just playing these non-significant roles in their own lives. And when you start to live who you are, you really take center stage. You really step into the spotlight, and you really become the main character in your life. And if you know movies, yeah, it's obviously a lot scarier to be the lead in a movie than it is to be sitting in the background on a couch. So to me, this process is terrifying. It's like really continues to push the limits of the amount of sensation we're able to hold in our bodies, and how after a while it can start to feel really good. It can start to feel, ugh, I don't like being comfortable anymore. I got to go step out and be more me. Find something else that pushes my boundaries. So I think our bodies want to make decisions that really push the boundaries of our comfort zone. And that's what life is all about. And our mind really wants to make decisions to not get out of our comfort zone, to really stay in our comfort zone, and to stay safe. So when you put these two things together, it's like obviously what's going to be the easy life, what's going to be the normal life. Ah, it's everybody living the not self because they're comfy and they're uh, uh, content-ish. It's okay. And I work with so many people whose their lives are okay, and if that's to me, I don't want to have an okay life. I want to have a life that's just like what the fuck? This is wild. This is a trip. Like crazy things are happening. So I think this information will lead you to living a life where you're more like what the fuck, which in my experience is a lot more sensational than the background movie. So yeah. So when we look at the G projector, it's everything that Britt says. This is what we teach in human design. This is a spontaneous voice that wants to come out of her identity, wants to come out of her love. So every time I see a G projector, I'm just like, they almost all have kind of like fairy energy. Like there's just this, they're like love on a stick, like that's pretty much what they are. They're just like floating around on, yeah. I really get that vibe from them. There's just this spontaneous lightness and love that's manifested out of them that can be very, just not normal in the world that we live in. And it's to me, it's a design that I will always enjoy listening to if they're authentic. And most people will, because you really get this expression of love. That's all they are. That's all that's consistent in them. That's what they can trust. So if they make decisions, their decisions are supposed to be bringing them into more of themselves, bringing them into more love, bringing them in a direction, like we talked about last time, that leads them to more self-love. And so it's such a unique frequency to have this type of design and to have this as your inner authority. It's like trust, you make decisions from your heart, and I know we have a heart center in human design, but to me, this is we could say that for the G center as well, because it is about love. So when you think of a homogenized world and then you think of a G projector, it's like it to me, it totally is the fairy that's running around. And when they're aligned, it's like they can wave their wand and really change people's lives, really bring them into more love of themselves as well, as long as they're following that way. So this is a very much never know what you're going to say before you say it. You just speak it out and see what comes out of your mouth, and they can be as surprised as we can of what comes out of the throat chakra here. Because again, the G center is so mystical. We saw last time. We don't really know much about what lives in here. um, other than it's very, very mysterious and spiritual. So yeah, that would be the G projector. Now, in my experience, it's so easy to know when these people are out of alignment because the frequency that comes out of their voice is very boring, and you're just like, meh, I could like take it or leave it, you know? It's so easy to see when they're not self, or when they're speaking about something that they've uh, decided beforehand, or they have a script. Like, ugh, it's so against the natural spontaneity and frequency that wants to come out of her in the moment.
Can I add something, Travis?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
No, it's okay. I raised my hand and I was like, I'm going to lower it again. It always happens to
Uh,
me. And I'm a self-projecting projector too, right? And I wanted to share that when Britt came in the chat and was like, I'm a self-projecting projector. And I was like, me too. I almost sent her a message and said, do you like go to send your friends voice notes and then stop? Like, I never send them because I do this very often. And when I found out that I was self-projecting, I realized I'm sending you a voice note, right? I'm like, I'm talking, I'm doing the thing. And then all of a sudden I realize something as I'm speaking and I'm like, whoa, and I have to stop. And no one ever needed to hear that voice note. Like I needed it. Like we learned from what we're sharing. And I just wanted to share that before design came into my life. I was a sales manager and I we had all these people I would network with, right? And I would ask like so many people, talk to so many people about the same thing. And my national consultant was like, Marissa, why do you keep asking everyone else these things? And when I learned about human design, it's like, damn, I just needed someone to just let me vent. Everyone wanted to give me advice, but I just needed to figure it out within myself. So I just wanted to share that part of yeah, especially when the voice note. It's just so
yeah.
funny. There's so many times I go and I'm like, oh, I don't need to send this. I just figured it out myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And when you're sending these voice notes, it's just a spontaneous thing that's coming out of you that you're
yeah.
speaking about, and then you hear something, and then that informs you of the correct decision.
Yeah. And when you were just sharing, I've been going back and forth about 6 months ago, I heard in my head, go on Craigslist, go look, type this in and and I found this amazing opportunity. And like the way that those voices came through, like it just reminded me of the G center of this like guidance. So I just wanted to
Mm.
also thank you for that nugget of wisdom of my own authority as I was like, damn, okay, I keep trying to tell myself maybe I shouldn't be here, but that's my mind. And yeah, so so appreciative of that. And
Yeah.
just thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Can feel the love coming out of both of you, for
I
sure.
also wear like I do sound healing for kids and I
Mm.
wear fairy wings. Then the owner of the place have to put fairy wings. So there's these videos when like the class was first like picking up where I'd be like waiting for a mom to show up with the kids and
Mm.
I'd be like running around. There's videos of me running in the lawn, like just trying to take silly promo videos. But when you just said that, I was like, oh, I do that.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, did we have any other self-projected projectors in here? Nope, that was it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, here we have solar plexus emotional authority, and so we can spend a little bit of time on this one because this one is going to be the majority of people that you see when you pull up their designs are going to be emotional, and they're all different. And we talked about the different waves already, right? When we talked about the solar plexus, so we don't have to go through that, but it is going to be a little bit different for everybody depending on what stream that they have activated and what centers are connected to the solar plexus. So the the tagline here from Ra is that there's no truth in the now. There's no truth in the moment for these people. And I have my own thoughts about this, just over my experience over the last 5 years. But what he's really trying to say is that in order for these people to make correct decisions, it's so important that they get to a place of what we call clarity in human design, or at least some sort of clarity, where there is less of an emotional charge around the decision. So really, none of us are supposed to be making decisions in emotional situations spontaneously. And when emotional people are in a high, they tend to say yes to everything. Everything feels good. Everything tastes good. Everything smells good. It's like, they're in this high of their emotional wave. And then when they say yes to things there, and they make a commitment, open ego, I'm going to commit to something to prove my worth, then 3 days later, they'd start to dip in their emotions a bit and they don't want to do this thing anymore. And they're like, shit, I committed to it. Like, I really don't want to do this. And that they can have regrets of making spontaneous emotional choices in the moment. Now, it doesn't always happen, but a lot of times it does. And it can be the same for when you go down. Emotional people can get really low in their wave and then blow things out of proportion or be really combative or say no to opportunities that could actually be a great opportunity for them, just because they're now in the low. So this is why Ross said it's so important for these people to at least sleep on it. And this emotional authority really goes for these big decisions in your life. Who are you going to be with? Where are you going to live? What are you going to do for work? Like these major things. The more major of a decision it is, the better chances that it's going to be correct for you, the more patience you can have, the more time you can give it to really go to the depths of this decision. So emotional people are really built to be deep, deeper than anybody else when it comes to, why am I going to make the decision? Um, if the joke is between a splenic person or a sacral person and an emotional person, if you want to know about someone else, you want someone to tell you about somebody else, don't go ask the splenic person because they're just going to know how the first impression was. If you really want to know who somebody is, go ask an emotional person because they've met them in all the different versions of themselves, all the different ways that they could possibly uh, exist, really. So think about emotional people as just here to really be wise and really be deep in terms of what they know. This is, after all, an awareness center. It just takes time. So when my teacher Alok found out that he was emotional, his joke was that he was going to die working on his patience. He'll never be patient enough, and this is the hardest thing for emotional people because we live in a society of FOMO. We can see Michelle actually has the stream of FOMO. We find fear of missing out in gate 30 here. So this can be like, someone who can be very much a dreamer, someone who can fantasize, someone who really wants to manifest new experiences in her life. And there can be a lot of expectation associated with this. That's not going to set her up for a great time, especially if it's a spontaneous choice. I have a fantasy all of a sudden, like, let's go do it. I'm not going to wait. And you go do it, and it never turns out the way that it's supposed to go. So this is like, again, this stream really is a great way to illustrate this point because gate 30 is the clinging fire. What sticks around? If I wait, is the fantasy still even there? If I wait, is the opportunity still even there? A lot of times things will fall away and it just wasn't meant for these people. They just needed to wait a little bit to see that happen. And I already told you that story, I think, about my friend who was renting a new place and they were trying to get her to make a decision. Hey, if you want this place, you need to let us know in 2 days. And she's like, I can't, I need more time than that. I can't tell you. And she waited and they came back a week later and said, hey, we'll give you $200 off your rent if you move in. So the key to know about the solar plexus, it seems like a limitation for these people that they need to take time. But if you think of it in a way of like the universe is arranging things for you while you're in that process of waiting. So that when the opportunity comes or when you're clear and you can say yes to it, it's going to be the most abundant that it possibly can. It's going to be the most correct. It just takes some time for things to be organized in that way. So you can think about the solar plexus as like a timing mechanism. If you're not sure, if you're not clear, then it's just not the right time for that opportunity to actually happen right now. And it could take a day, it could take a week, it could take a year. You don't really know with the solar plexus and how big this decision is. But to trust that, okay, the universe is supporting me. It's telling me to be patient. It's if it's still there for me when I'm clear, then it's going to be the best it can possibly be. And this is something that you can test out and you can try and you can prove to yourself if you wait what actually happens. But think about how insanely hard that is. And Ra always jokes with relationships and Prince Charming, and he was like, "Yeah, so you have an emotional generator, and someone shows up and they respond. Oh my God, this is my person. I've been waiting for my person for so long, and they're emotional." And he's like, "Yeah, well now you have to send them away." And you have to think about it. And they're like, "Are you crazy? Like they just showed up in my life. I'm ready. I want to get married or whatever it is." So his whole thing is like, wow, what patience it does require here to actually make a correct decision. And his whole thing is like, play hard to get. Not in a game sense of play hard to get, but play hard to get in you demanding that you need more time to really come to an understanding if this is correct or not. And this is like, you know, how can we burn slow? Or are we going to just jump into something really deep? Now, I'm an open solar plexus. My biggest something I need to work on is I don't know how to burn slow. I'm like gasoline on the fire. If the solar plexus, the defined solar plexus is the fire, the open solar plexus shows up and it's like, yeah, let me pour the gas on it and we can really experience pleasure and experience adventure. And it's just like, the open solar plexus can really influence a defined solar plexus to be spontaneous. And that's a very, very dangerous game for both people involved. So learning about having an open solar plexus, and being a projector, I really see that one of my strengths and one of my part of my purpose is when I meet a solar plexus person to really support them in their slowness, to even guide them to being slower, guide them to being more patient, and that's really hard as an open solar plexus person. So if you have a defined solar plexus and you meet somebody who is pressuring you to make a spontaneous choice, this person is not correct for me right now. Or they may be correct for me, but I'm going to have a boundary and wait. And if they're correct for me, they'll still be there. They're not going anywhere. It's almost like it makes the solar plexus even more attractive when it has the capacity to set a big boundary and to burn at the correct pace for them. So they just need to take more time in this life to come to some sort of clarity before they make these big decisions. And I've noticed in my life how attractive that is when people have those boundaries. It makes it amplifies the magnetism in my experience. So if you have a defined solar plexus, you can start to tell people like, "Hey, this is how I operate. Like, I can't be pressured to be spontaneous. I'm not sure. I don't know yet. But it sounds good." So you can say, "I'm a yes right now." But especially with an open ego, I'm not going to make a promise. I'm not going to commit to anything. I'm just letting you know how I feel in this moment, and it feels really amazing, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm a no right now, but things could change as I take time. So it's so important for you to come up with your own language and your own way that you like to explain your decision-making process to the people around you, and then set that boundary and watch and see, wow, am I more attractive? Am I getting more opportunities? Are there more invitations coming my way because I'm slowing down and actually operating at my own correct pace. So much of this life I really think is about speed and pace, and that's something that has taken me a long time to find in myself. What's my natural pace that I move through this life at? And you look at my design, it can vary a lot. But if you see a defined solar plexus, if you see a defined root, they typically have a pace that's natural for them that they can really trust and start to lean into in this life. But again, it's so freaking hard because when we talked about the solar plexus, it's like, yeah, number one, they don't get the time that they require, and number two, they're not really allowed to feel low. It's like only high, so they can have a hard time moving through those down waves, and thinking I'm missing out on life. I'm missing out on everything being in a low. I just want to make a spontaneous choice that's going to bring me back up again. It's going to get me high again. Um, so my ex was the emotional manifester, and one amazing example I saw for her was she got invited to go to this retreat in Hawaii. It was like a week long, and it was with these different women, and they were going to be doing all this. I don't know what the details were exactly, but she was like so 100% in. She was so excited about it, and she was like a fuck yes, like this is going to be life changing for me. I'm like, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm a yes. And I'm like, okay, you're emotional. You could be in a high. Typically, when emotional people are 100%, they're in their not self about to make a spontaneous decision. This is very, very clear. So I was like, why don't you just wait on it? There's no pressure. You don't need to make a decision right now. Just at least sleep on it. And she waited like 3 or 4 days and got to a point where she was like, I am so glad I did not sign up for this stupid retreat. This looks terrible. I do not want to be with these people. Like she really got to this place of like, what was I thinking? And so it was really cool for me to witness like both sides of her like being such a fuck yes and then being like, oh my God, this is so not resonant with me. So I've witnessed it so many times with my emotional people in my life of the flip-flopping based on the chemistry of their wave and what's correct for them or not. So again, don't need to be perfect here. Make spontaneous choices and watch what happens. Most time, emotional people already know what happens. They've had these issues their whole life trying to be spontaneous. And when we talk about the more spontaneous authorities, like I said in the very beginning of class, it's really funny to watch splenic people think they need to take more time to make decisions and think things through, and to watch emotional people think that they take way too long. They need to be more spontaneous and they need to move faster. So this is our conditioning's always crisscrossing. We're always wanting to be who we're not. So sleep on it. Know that it's for your depth. Know that it's the universe in support of the perfect timing for you in this life. You're not missing out on opportunities. It's actually bringing the correct ones towards you. And in my experience, you will keep getting tested over and over and over again to see what decisions you're going to make. And there will be opportunities forever to learn about patience and the cadence that these people operate at. So I really think it's the open solar plexus when we're in our true self, really be in support of the time that they need. Even though for me, it's correct to know in the moment, I can instantly know. But that's not fair to put any sort of pressure on them to also know. And I went through this in this like love affair I had in Ibiza with this very heavily defined emotional woman. And I was like instantly just knew there was a resonance here. And I was like, oh, I can really see myself with this person. And it was just such a instantaneous knowing for me, which for me is correct. It's my truth. Like I can get there. But then I put so much pressure on her unknowingly to be in the same space that I was, and she went along with it. And then it didn't end the way I wanted it to end. But afterwards, we had really interesting conversations where I could see for the first time how my spontaneity, paired with an emotional being, I could really be the gasoline. I could really get people into their emotional not self. And she didn't have the boundaries that she needed to set. And she didn't speak authentically because it was such a pleasurable experience. And this is the problem with this solar plexus is here lies pleasure. And we will do so much to experience pleasure. It's really what life is all about in the solar plexus. It's the drama and there's also the pain, and it's just the feelings. It makes life so meaningful and so colorful and so beautiful. But when you're chasing that pleasure as an emotional being, it's yeah, the pain can swing very quickly. It can go the other direction. So that was just one experience from my life where I really got to witness a relationship, knowing human design and watching the mechanics play out and being conscious of it and still not being able to go slow enough. That's the other crazy thing. It's like I know all of these things. Like I give myself advice all the time, and I still could not uh, own it. I could not practice it in real life. I was overtaken by these emotions and by the pleasure of the experience. And so just a fascinating thing to witness and to see how the solar plexus defined and open interacts with each other. Anything to say, Michelle? How have you experienced your emotions in this life?
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, especially the fear of like missing opportunities and relationships. I just want to make a decision right away. But now trying to like follow my emotional authority, What it has surprised me the most is all the realizations coming up while I'm waiting,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I'm struggling with the patience because I just want to get over with it, but my body is still not ready. So I kind of recognized the shift from the beginning. Like my mind was wanting me to act a lot, but then like my mind knows what to do, but my body is still like holding back.
Mhm.
So that's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely missing opportunities and relationships. And one thing I've actually been thinking about, I always go very much back and forth, probably because I don't know how to navigate this yet. But I have been looking at the retreat in Lofoten,
Mhm.
which is interesting, but I don't know. Like my mind wants to, but I don't know if my body wants to.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just interesting to look at.
Mhm. So if we look a little bit, thank you for sharing. If we look a little bit more at her design, why would it be difficult for her to have this defined mental system? And remember, the ajna is an awareness center, so she does have mental awareness that comes to her consistently that she can trust, but it's not to make decisions for her life. And so she can really get caught in between the mental knowing and the emotional knowing. But you can hear her when she speaks about it. My mind is so much faster than this system. And this is the hardest part for people is that this solar plexus is an awareness center, but it takes the most amount of time of any other center. So if you see people with other defined awareness centers in their design, what has to unfortunately take precedence is the patience of the solar plexus. And they may feel like they know, and sometimes they may know already, but just to be sure, it's like the emotional center has to process all of it. So you can think about the solar plexus as really taking in everything that's happening in her whole design, and it's kind of like chewing on it. It's going over it. It's making her feel a certain way about things. So this is why it can be such an issue. It's just the speed thing. We all want to get the most out of life. We all want to. We're all taught to be quick, and her mind is very efficient, and yeah. So just something I wanted to point out between what you were saying about the mental system and the solar plexus. And would love to
Yeah.
have you in Lofoten.
Yeah, we'll see.
Amazing. All right, another emotional projector. Gabby, anything to add about your emotional authority or questions or things that you've been going through?
Yeah, this has been an interesting one for me. Definitely resonate with everything both you and Michelle said. Um, what I've come to realize, like I've been in this situation with a relationship for the past 2.5 years, and yeah, the going back and forth. Like one mo moment I was really like, this is what I want, and I'll wait as long as it takes, and all of that. And then, the next moment I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm like, burn it all to the ground. And then I started noticing a pattern. It's like, wait a
Mm,
minute. I can see my cycle in this, my menstrual cycle, like the ovulation and the menstruation, like the highs and the lows. Like, yeah. So that's for me, that's really something to be aware of as well. But also really just how long it can take, especially with the really big ones,
mm,
like this one. This was a really big one for me. Um, yeah, it took me years to really finally get to that place of like, actually, I think it's a no for me. I mean, I haven't really had the opportunity to really explore it because, it kind of fizzled out and we didn't really get to that place. But yeah, it's really, I've had that before with people especially. Like it can take years to get that clarity of,
mm,
is this actually what I want or what my body wants? Or yeah, so that's been really interesting. But yeah, for me also, because I have the definition for all the authorities for projectors. Yeah, I kind of like use them as a board of advisors in a way. And then for the big decisions, my solar plexus has, or well, I'm trying to give my solar plexus the final say. So yeah, like, with food or stuff like that or health stuff, my spleen is usually pretty loud. Um, yeah, like with the self-projected, I can really resonate with that as well. Like talking to someone, and all of a sudden I'll hear it in my own voice, like, oh, okay, there's my answer. Like, yeah. I mean, it's not the authority, but it's yeah,
Yeah.
it helps, I guess. Although it can also make it extra confusing sometimes. But yeah. But yeah, I'm still, it's unconscious as well, my solar plexus, and yeah, patience. I had this galactic astrology reading for my birthday last year, and she was like, "You have a lot of things in your chart about learning to surrender." Like, yeah, I can see that. So yeah, that's really learning patience. Like, oh my God. Yeah, that's my biggest lesson in this life, I guess, as well. Yeah. Just really, yeah, it's really hard for me to trust that if I wait and it's correct for me, it will still be there
Uh,
after I wait. Um, yeah, but I'm trying to lean into that and surrender to that more and more. And it's actually, it feels good actually. Like it takes the pressure off in a way.
mhm.
Like I don't have to make a decision right now, and the more proof I get from life that it's actually correct for me to move in this way, then yeah, it
Yeah.
starts to feel really good. So
Mm. Yeah, beautifully said. And we, we can't ever separate, like we can never talk about a design and one part of the design in isolation. So that's something really important to keep in mind. Yeah, she has a defined solar plexus, but look at all of her other definitions. She has all three awareness centers, and you can't get rid of those and say, no, you're just emotional now. You're just going to make an emotional decision. It doesn't work like that. So what she was saying was really important of, hey, you're going to get information from your whole design. You're going to get information from your whole self. And how can you trust your intuition? It's not like someone's born without an intuition. Everybody has an intuition, regardless of whether it's open or defined. But like you were saying, the more patience you can give yourself, you learn over time. Yeah, it tends to go better when I wait, when I give myself time. Um, yeah. Okay. Let's go. Is Anna not here? She's emotional too, though, I think. Okay, so then after solar plexus, we'll get into sacral authority, and then I'll give everybody an opportunity to talk about their authorities today. Um, but when we come to the sacral authority, that means that the sacral is colored in, so we have just a pure, what we call a pure generator. So there is just no solar plexus defined. So this I always tell people like, wow, you really hit the jackpot with this design because your strategy is really the same as your authority. It's like wait to respond, and when you respond, that's your truth, that's who you are, and off you go with the use of your energy. It's such a existential, perfect mechanism in terms of their ability to really wake up and do the things that they love because it could be instantaneous. I now respond to this. It's a yes for me. Let's go. Let's unleash all this powerful sacral energy that I have, and they're off generating their life. So the sacral is much more spontaneous. It's much more in the moment. The difference when we talk about the sacral and the spleen is, remember, the sacral is about energy. It's a motor. It's designed to use its energy in a way that's going to bring satisfaction. So this is consistency in work, in intimacy, in sex, in building things. Like it's really here to be the building block of this whole world we find ourselves in. So generators make those noises, and that is what's showing them, okay, we're meant to use our energy in this way now. When we get to the spleen, it has nothing to do with energy. It can be hooked up to the sacral, it can be hooked up to the root, but being a splenic person is much more cool. It's intuitive. It can be futuristic. It's just a knowing, and it's about health for these people. So very, very different, both existential and more spontaneous. But remember, when we speak about the sacral, we always have to talk about energy. We always have to talk about the generator, obviously. So I say to sacral generators, it's like, yeah, what a what a what a quick experiment it could be for these people. If they decide to actually try it out, it can happen so fast, because again, they're just able to recognize their truth in the moment. Now, back to the solar plexus with this no truth in the now. To me, I really think that there is truth in the moment for these people. It's just going to change depending on the chemistry of their wave. So to me, it's more about depth. And I don't really like Rod's slogan. I repeat it because there is something to his words and his frequency. But to me, it's like there's just a lot of different truths. And there is spontaneous truth for these people, but in the long term, when you're making a big decision, that's when it's required to wait, obviously. But not for the sacral generator. So here we have what we call it's like a magnetism towards something. It can feel like I've heard people describe a pure generator, like when they know their truth and they respond to something, it's almost like they're already doing it. Like they're already moving towards action, like taking action. It's like the motor turns on and now it wants to be used. So you can think of it as like a gut. Trust your gut. What's your gut saying? And the gut is usually pulling these people towards something. Now, when it's a no, it's kind of the opposite. There's no energetic response. They're not feeling any excitement. They're not feeling any sense of movement towards the opportunity or the relationship or whatever is coming towards them. So there's other nuances where people say, when you ask them something, if they don't get a response, it may not be necessarily a no. You may have to tweak the language and ask them in a different way for it to really come alive. So there could be nuance here. There could be detail required. They could need to know another piece of information before the body really responds. So there's different ways to go about finding their truth if it's an opportunity that they're interested in. Now, when it's a no, typically it's a hard no, and they can really feel their body contract. So I like to think of the sacral as like, get excited. If they're excited, if they're lit up, if they're, what Zoe says, this juicy generator energy that's available for these people, very much about energy. So the solar plexus, I like to say, like, get deep. These people are here to get really deep. The sacral is really here to get excited. Like, what are you excited about? What's spontaneously lighting you up in this moment? And then when we get to the spleen, I like to say, get lost, because it has no freaking idea why it does the things that it does. But yeah, the sacral, we talked a lot about it when we talked about the sacral center, but it's this on-off, yes, no morality attached to it whatsoever. It's just in the moment what the person's truth is. And they can trust that when it's on, that this energy is going to lead them to satisfaction. And yeah, that feels really good for the generator. So we say, don't chase the money, chase your theme. So generators are here to really chase this satisfaction. That's it. And when they're satisfied, they're in generator heaven. They can get there very quick. We also talked about some of the trauma that lives in the sacral and why it could be so hard for a generator to actually respond authentically because of the fear that lives here and what we carry with our sexuality as humans. And so a lot of times, most people just focus on work. And I talked about that when we talked about the sacral center, but that's something really important to keep in mind. Not to think like it's very easy for them to be living a life in response. It's kind of wild if you actually think about what that might look like for a generator. Um, and so to me, I really think it's not about, again, making 100% correct decisions. It's just about recognizing if you're really frustrated, it's going to be obvious to figure out why you're frustrated. When you tap into the sacral center, it's not going to be on. It's going to be dormant, and you're going to be pushing it, and you're going to be initiating, and you're going to be, yeah, grinding. Where when it does turn on, it's just effortless. It's just flow. It's really beautiful to watch a generator dance or do something that they love. It's such a frequency. Versus when they're doing something that they don't love, then it's also easy to recognize, just not a pleasurable or enjoyable experience. So trust their gut with these people. It's a very, again, existential experience of life, and it can change very rapidly for them, but it can be really, really scary. And then we have the spleen, and we also have the solar plexus. So let's hear. Is Liz here? Yep, there you
Yeah, I mean, I resonated with everything you were saying, but I think Gabby, especially when you were saying like it's really hard to be patient, and yeah, I really feel that. And I've also noticed more with like my feminine cycle. I think that's been huge for me. I've been more aware of that and my emotional wave and just how they kind of correlate. And I do feel like I'm always in a high when I'm ovulating and then tend to dip down like during my luteal phase. And just having the awareness has had me have more patience for myself and just like understand and not make big decisions based on like, yeah, I'm ovulating, I feel really good, let's do it. And yeah, I think I always kind of not struggled, but with the like no truth in the now, I was like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, there is. But I kind of get what you're saying. Like, I think there is, but then also like it might not be true for me in an hour or tomorrow or something. So
Yeah.
that kind of helps. Just seeing it from that way. Yeah, I think it's just like being a generator too and having the sacral and responding to things. Like you said, it's not, I feel like it's not always easy. I feel like everyone's like, yeah, you can decondition so much faster than projectors. And I'm like, can I? Like, it's never like felt safe to like trust myself, I guess, and
Yeah.
let myself respond to things. And then I get a hole in my head. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've been working on more like letting myself feel my emotions. I think that's been huge. I think as a child, I think you might have said this, Travis, in the beginning of this, just I feel like most families in America, or at least a lot of people I run into, like it wasn't okay to be emotional. We didn't talk about things, and that's kind of how it was in my family. And I was told I was too much or had big emotions, and no one really knew how to handle it. So I kind of just suppressed that. So I've been sitting with that more and knowing it's okay to have these big emotions, and then just trying to find my voice and how to express that is challenging, but just something I'm working on always.
And then what does your sacral feel like when it's on?
It feels great. When I am lit up by something, like I have so much energy. And I think even recently I found like I've been very frustrated in my work for a long time and my job, and um I I didn't have a lot of energy. Like I was just kind of like getting through life, just not doing much. And I was like tired and not depressed, but just like not doing anything that really lit me up. And then I think I shared I recently bought a van and I've been converting it, and I'm so lit up by it, and it's like given me more energy. Like it's helped in a lot of ways in my life, not just having energy to do that, but it's just other things. I just feel more lit up, and so that's felt really good to like find those things that do bring me that satisfaction and doing more of it. And it is interesting. I'm like, oh, I'm not tired. Like I just wasn't doing the right things. Still trying to figure out the job situation. That's that even helped me like I've set more boundaries with work and doing other things that light me up. It's helped me be like, okay, I'm doing other things that bring me satisfaction. Like I can get through this while I'm figuring out what's next for me. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. It's yeah, it takes time just to swing the pendulum to the other side, or start to tweak our uh, life where we're doing more things that we love. But it's yeah, thank you for sharing and letting us into what it feels like to have that sacral defined. It's a yeah, it's such a mystery to me what that must feel like to have that consistently in a chart. And Rod did equate the solar plexus with the menstrual cycle often, and he used that analogy a lot, especially for men, of like, hey, you know, women don't quit their jobs when they're on their period and they get emotional. Like you learn as a woman because you're so much more connected to cycles and to the way that life really flows. That okay, this is kind of how this works. You have to learn to deal with it, and so he would use that example a lot for emotional people and be like, hey, look, when you're in the high, it's not the time to make the decision. You may know it may be correct, but to make sure, you have to get to that point where there isn't as much of a charge, just to be certain. So yeah, his whole thing was it's a chemistry. It's a chemistry that happens in our body, and that's it. It doesn't have to mean anything. Um, we're just moving through it. Okay, I don't think Anne's here. Oh no, now we get to the spleen. Okay. The spleen, it's my authority, obviously. I have a lot to say about this one. But I think what I've learned is that I don't know why I do anything that I do. I just don't. It's just like I felt like it, or I knew it, or it's such an existential type of knowing. So here we have instinct and intuition. And to live a life based on intuitive, in the moment decisions is, again, also very crazy to think about. And that's what I've been doing for years now, and it has unfolded in a way where I never could have imagined any of this. And I still don't understand why I do the things that I do. But splenic people, remember, the spleen is all about health. It's all about vitality. It's all about well-being. This is where we find the immune system. So a question that I like to give splenic people is this clean? In this moment where I'm making the decision, is it clean for me to take into my energy? Is it clean for me to digest this opportunity? And this really helps guide me to the correct decisions in my life. And most of my decisions are here to either add more vitality and liveliness into my life, or that's here to protect me from eating something or doing something that's going to be dangerous to my health, to my physical health. So last night I had this happen. Um, a friend of my roommates had come to stay for a couple of nights, and I was super hungry last night. It was like 9 o'clock. I'm like, shoot, I didn't make dinner. Like, should I eat right now? And my mind was like going crazy, trying to decide if I should eat. And then I'm just like, I'm hungry. I don't have a bedtime. I'm an adult. Like, why can't I eat right now? And he was like, "Oh, if you don't want to make dinner, I have food in like leftover food." He went to this like Asian restaurant that was really good, and so there was some leftover stuff. So I took it out of the fridge, and I instantly had like, don't eat this. Like, don't eat it. I don't know why. It looked really good. And I was like, no, that's just my mind saying something. So I took like a tiny little bite of it, and it was like kind of spicy. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then finally it came back again, and it said it again, like, do not eat this. So I didn't. And even having like one little bite, my stomach was like really not well last night. Like, I did not feel good. And I was like, thank God I didn't eat this whole thing, because I probably would have been in a lot of trouble. So the thing that Ra always said about the spleen is that it's very quiet and it speaks once and then it doesn't come back. And I do not find that to be true in my life. The more sensitive I get, it is existential, it is in the moment, so it can constantly change. But if I'm still in a scenario that I need to leave, it will come back again and say again, get the fuck out of here. Or go somewhere else. So I have found with the spleen, like I understand what Ra was saying because each moment is different. Splenic people, we are not good at planning because we realize that we could be dead in 30 seconds. I don't know if I'll be here next week. I don't know what country I'm going to be in a month. It's just like it's such an existential flow of life that we know there's always a possibility of something happening different than what we expected. Um, and it's just been such a trip trying to come to terms with living a life like that. And I've had times where I'll drive to the grocery store and I'll sit there and I will turn around and go home. Like my body will not go in the store. It's like, we don't want to go in there right now. So it's like navigating in a really strange way. It's really healthy for splenic people to like, or you may just find yourself doing this. Like there's always a different way home. I never drive the same way. Sometimes I'll be driving a road that I've driven forever and like a routine, and I'll just go down a different street all of a sudden, just randomly. So the spleen, if we trust our intuition, I always equate it with surfing. We don't know what's happening. We're just in flow of life. The more in the moment we can be, the more we can trust that we're going to be able to survive. The spleen is all about survival and our instincts to survive. So it's kind of like being a wild animal. It is connected with our senses. Nature can be really healthy for splenic people, for everybody really. But the spleen needs things coming at it. So the worst thing for the spleen is to really go up into the mental system. Because again, when we talked about the centers, how much it can override the knowledge that comes from this. That can be very quiet in the beginning. So if we get in our heads, we're really screwed. If there's too many opportunities, we're really screwed. The spleen doesn't really give a shit about 90% of the decisions I make every day in my life. It doesn't care because it's okay for me. It really comes online when it's a total yes and a resonance and like this is part of my path. And it really comes online when it's like this is going to make you sick or this is not going to be healthy for you to be with this person. Those are when I'm really able to notice that it's happening. And it's almost like a witnessing of me watching my body do something where I'm not in control at all. So people often will ask me, well, how do I know if it's a splenic decision versus a mental decision? And I'll always say, like, when it's a mental decision, it's the mind is in initiating, the mind is deciding, it's telling you. Whereas if it's a splenic decision, your mind is now receiving. It's like it's coming to you. It's not there's no initiation involved. It's more like it's a happening to me. So it's really easy now for me to recognize, like if I'm in my mind, I'm in my doubt or confusion or all my other not self themes. If I'm in my spleen, I'm just like I'm receiving the feed and watching it play out before I'm able to even grasp it mentally or understand it. So to me, it's much more of a receiving type of vibe when a good decision comes my way. And when I'm in the mind, there's no receiving happening. I'm busy conceptualizing and deciding the pros and cons and all the stuff that the mind likes to do. So yeah, it's difficult to be splenic in this world of tell me why and have a plan and have a structure and we can have that, but we just have to leave opportunity and space for us to be able to flow within that structure so that we can be healthy and we can trust that, hey, I'm tired. My body needs to rest right now. I don't know how long. Let me set a timer for 20 minutes and see how I feel when I get up. But it's living a life that is so attuned to your health. It's so in tune to the body's physical well-being. And so the more we can understand our own health and how we keep our bodies healthy, the stronger our intuition becomes, the stronger our instinct becomes, and the more we can make correct decisions. So a couple ways it shows up for me is really like tingling in my body. It's very much like the chills. I'll get full body chills when something resonates, when there's a truth that's spoken. My whole body will just know. And when it's not correct, it is more quiet. but it's becoming a lot more clear of okay, this isn't my mind. This is actually something I need to listen to. But it can be really difficult to tell, especially in relationships, and being a 1-3. Sometimes I just need space in a relationship. I don't know why. My body just wants to take space. So it's really important that I articulate how I make decisions in this life and how that, I have a really strong intuition. I have, really strong instinct. Sometimes I just need to make decisions for my own health. Has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with the relationship. But the more I can trust and flow with my intuition, the better it goes for me. And then that obviously is better for the relationship and everyone around me. So it's been a long road. Again, I don't get to know why, but I've just noticed like, okay, wow, I am experiencing a lot of recognition, a lot of success. My body feels like the best it's ever felt. I'm in a flow. I must be making some splenic choices in my life when they come. So I think I talked about this a little bit, but people say I need to check in with my spleen. Like you can't check in with your spleen. You can just be present in the moment and follow it and watch it, but you can't tap into it. It doesn't work that way. It works the other way. Um, yeah, I used to drive my ex-girlfriend nuts when we would go to eat because sometimes we'd show up at like a restaurant and be like, I can't go in there. My body does not want to be in here. Like we just have to go. And sometimes that would happen like 3 or 4 times before we would get to a place where I was comfortable. And it literally wasn't me. Like it looked good, like everything good. It's like a body feeling of danger. The spleen is very much connected to like danger and survival. So to me, it was just like something is not healthy for me here. And that can be very annoying for people, but also very helpful if we're not eating bad food or if we're, not doing something that's dangerous. And another thing of the spleen is it can just take you to like to be spontaneous is so important. When I was in Ibiza with this woman, we would always have like a plan to go somewhere, and we would show up and I'm like, something doesn't feel right, like, ooh, look at that over there, like my body wants to move this way. And we would like walk and just meet the most amazing experiences, and just like it's like my whole life I stumble into like the most amazing things that I could never have planned or imagined. And this is the beauty of the spleen when you start to trust it, is it will take you to places where you're like, holy shit. And this experience in Ibiza was like the most magical that's ever happened. And I was really just in my spleen, and it was leading me around this island in a way of like experiencing stuff I never could have found. Or it's so spontaneous. It can really treat us well when we start to listen to it, and life just becomes magical because of how it's not connected to the mental place. So yeah, when shit hits the fan, people want to be around a spleen. When you're exploring, like people really want to be with a splenic person, because when we're really in trust and in flow, it will lead us to beauty. We have the channel of beauty that comes out of gate 57 and to the 10. Gate 28 is all about meaning, so there is some really beautiful stuff that's here that's connected to the spleen. All right, Ben, what do you got for us?
Oh boy. Uh, I know, I was trying to think. It's funny because like this whole month, I had that big decision of taking this class, which I think I talked about, having that big splenic hit. And then I feel like this whole month I've just been enjoying the class and waiting and like kind of playing, but I haven't really felt any real big splenic stuff. But Monday I had an interesting where I was so exhausted and I felt like my mind was just shut off. And I was driving to the grocery store, and it was like literally every turn I was supposed to take, I just didn't take.
Hmm.
And then I would find my mind be like, what the fuck are you doing? You missed it again, you idiot. And then I would just be like, okay, well, I don't know. I guess I'll just go this way. And so then I ended up finding another route. And I don't know if this is like what I was supposed to see or not, but I ended up driving by this wellness place that was like, they got cold plunges and saunas and float tanks and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that was there. So I was able to explore it, and I was like, well, that's cool to know at least. Like, I didn't really like go anywhere in that moment for me, but now I know that it's there, and
Yeah.
I still got to the grocery store. But
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Just a fun way of exploring it. And then the other day, I went to the gym with my friend, and we usually hit the sauna afterwards, but we didn't. We just like were like, oh, we could do the sauna, and then like, oh, for some reason, I just didn't feel like doing it. Like my body was like, my mind was kind of like, oh yeah, it's good. You like the sauna, you enjoy it, but like, I just didn't have the pull to go to it. So that was another recent experience I had. So it's kind of fun just learning to play in those different moments, and I don't know, I guess really start to trust that again, and maybe even get my spleen to trust me again. Like, oh, you're gonna listen when I even if it's like doesn't lead anywhere like big and important, is it just gonna be, yeah, are you still gonna listen to me kind of a thing? Maybe. I don't know. And I
Yeah.
think that there has been times where I'm like, man, I feel like maybe there's a spleen, but is it my mind tricking me to like pretend it's my inner authority? Like does our mind's probably that, much of a trickster where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's trying to kick me out of the driver's seat. So how can I like subvert it and make him think that it's the spleen talking? But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then the mind can say, when the spleen is talking, maybe my mind is making the spleen talk. And like it can really go like 100 layers of fucking you
Yeah,
from every which way. And then you're just so confused. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. This
right.
is why I always point back to your theme and your not self theme as the only way you're gonna be able to measure it, especially as a spleen person, to see what's playing out because the mind is really, yeah. But I had that experience all the time as well. When you're driving, you just take a different route for seemingly no reason, but you'll cross something different and find something different. Yeah. So a splenic 1-3, it's like yeah, changing it up all the time can be really really helpful, and routine can be very monotonous, and eventually you're going to need to, yeah, it's going to want to switch it up for whatever reason.
Yeah. Oh, and then I had, when you were telling your story about the love affair in Ibiza, my it brought up something for me because my ex-wife is an emotional generator, and I had remembered this time where we're like 2 weeks into starting into dating, and then all of a sudden she was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, this isn't like work. I can't remember what she was saying, and she was like saying all these like, I want to go to Africa and be a missionary. And I was like, but like I feel like I was definitely caught up in amplifying the emotion of like, the initial, getting together, and it was just kind of like, well, like I don't know, like my mind just clung to it and tried and kind of convinced her like why it could still work and stuff. And yeah, anyway, that just was a funny experience. And now I'm like, man, I wonder if, obviously we were both in our not self, but yeah, it's like, oh, I wonder what decision we would have made if we would have known this information, but
Yeah.
and how we operated.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you on that one. Yeah, thanks for sharing. All right, my twin.
Yeah, obviously resonate with a lot of what's being said. Um, I don't know, I do feel it more in just the moment to moment situations, especially dangerous ones. I feel like my spleen is just it's gotten me out of like life and death situations more than once. Um,
Yeah.
and down to just like the mundane stuff, like whether or not to eat something or, I don't know if it's like smell cognition or whatever, but I feel like I can like smell whether someone's healthy or not. Or I was a chef for 10 years, so food especially is an easy one for me. Um, yeah, and then I don't know, I guess just this idea of like rejection as like redirection, whether I'm like reaching out to somebody or they're inviting me. Like I remember John Cole told me like, you know, the world will, some of the feedback you'll get is like you're flaky, you know, or you'll switch up plans or you whatever. And
Yeah.
you know, and I always like held so much shame or guilt around that. Um, and I just remember him being like, yeah, well, if they don't like that, tell them to fuck off because that's, you know, that's your lifeline. Like that's your way of being. And ever since then, I just have definitely given myself more permission to live that way. And it's definitely brought me to a lot of beautiful places and surrounded me like with the right people, you know. Um, I think some of the only things I still get hung up on is like the truth being in the now and then remembering some like verbal truths maybe people I love say to me and holding on to those things
Mm.
afterward and wanting to know like what that meant or whatever the case may be. And you know, I think that's probably more of a open head thing or something than my spleen. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think being splenic's pretty cool. I feel like if a splenic is like incredibly wealthy, it'd be like a really fun person to be friends with. I just like, I always say that. I'm like, I'd be a great wealthy person to like be friends with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important to that you tie it back to our health. Like if someone's not supporting you in a spontaneous decision that you're making because it's literally telling you this is what's healthy for you and this is what's not, then yeah, that person is not. They may be offended, they may feel like you're flaky, either like you said, or whatever. But to understand that these decisions aren't, they're not just decisions. These are decisions that are going to really dictate if you're feeling a sense of vitality, if you're feeling a sense of health, if you're feeling your signature as a human. So this is why when you start to do it and it starts to work and it really changes the way your body, your physical body feels and the sensations that you feel in this life, it's a lot more easy, or it's a lot easier to start having like really clear boundaries around this stuff. And I think in the beginning, this is probably the hardest part. When you begin to change, your relationships begin to change. People don't like splenic Jeff, People don't like splenic Travis. They liked people pleaser, avoid confrontation and truth Travis. He was much more agreeable. So to find the support systems and the people in our life that are like good for you, like setting a boundary, doing something spontaneous, even if I don't like it, like I'm so in support of that. Like that becomes the sexiest thing to me when someone has like really clear boundaries. It's like, wow, they really know themselves. They're really honoring themselves. And that's what we're all here to do is really support each other in having the most vitality and experiencing the signature of our type. So, like you said, you'll find your people. They'll come to you, but you just have to begin to make the decisions that your body wants you to make, which is very confusing in the homogenized world. Yeah, I love John. I just went and saw him and Amy out in Wimberley the other night. We had dinner, and they're just great people. Who did we not hear from? Hello.
Hello.
What's your spleen in awareness of right now? You sleepy?
I feel so tired. I had terrible sleep last night. Or
Uh,
not even terrible sleep. I just couldn't sleep until like 4 a.m., which is
uh,
crazy for me. And yeah, as we're talking, I'm realizing like one thing that can happen for me is my splenic feeling like I can be not aware of it in the moment, but then later as I reflect on the day,
Hmm.
like last night when I was awake, just awake for hours, I
Yeah.
was thinking about the day that I had had, and I was realizing that like in the moment I had been with a new friend and her family, and I was like in the moment, I was feeling other people's there was a lot of energy, right? That I was picking up on from other people. And then when I look back on it, I'm like, "Oh, that didn't feel good to me." Like in the moment, I don't think I recognized it or felt or realized it or had awareness of it. But so it's cool to hear you say that like the spleen isn't so black and white in terms of like you can't access it after the moment because I feel like I can access it when I reflect back and I'm like when I'm in my own space in my own quiet, I'm like, "Oh, that was me not feeling good about something."
Yeah.
And I wasn't being asked anything or given any like options other than just
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you could leave."
Yeah.
Um,
That's something I get a lot with the spleen is it tells me when to leave. It's like,
mhm.
leave now. Like, don't
Mhm.
stay here anymore. Like, just go. And it's like, fuck, okay, how do you listen to that? But like you're saying, after the fact, when I don't listen to it, it's like, you idiot, this is the point where you were supposed to leave. I knew I didn't follow it. And then we have this like, yeah, okay, I know why I feel shitty. It was because of that moment.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can like trace back the steps.
Yeah.
I'm like a big proponent of like the Irish exit. Like
Yeah.
when I cannot drive with other people. Like if I go to I mean,
Hmm.
I rarely go to parties, let's be honest, but like, if I go somewhere with people or I'm meeting up with people, I have to be able to leave when I want. And I think there's been a big, like Gabby was saying, like one of the most difficult things is when people don't speak human design. But like even before I spoke human design, I knew that like the people who took it personally when I did or didn't want to do something or did or didn't want to be somewhere, like I just can't. I have like such an anger reaction. Like you don't get to like put meaning on whether or not I want to do something with you and your group. And even like being in groups of friends, like I'm like, I don't want to be in your friend group. Like, because then I have to like go to everything and like I don't go to things. Like I don't want to be expected to do things in order to, prove my uh, allegiance or like whatever. Anyway, that's kind of a rant. One thing that I wanted to ask
Hmm.
your perspective on, as we're talking about like the projector and what it is to be the projector, and you're sharing about how it's important to be relaxed and not try to figure anything out for a year. I'm finding myself getting in my mind about like I need to master something. And
Hmm.
like how do I find the thing that I want to master?
Hmm.
And I'm feeling this story of like I'm never going to be recognized or valued if I don't like become an expert in something. And I need to figure what that it is. And I also have a pressure inside to like have it be strategic of like something that people like a subject that people already value or a subject that is going to be practical. Like I have that in my design. I think the practicality aspect,
Sure.
like wanting to help people, but I'm like, what can I? So this is like how I'm finding myself going about it
Hmm.
is like, what can I become an expert in or a master in that will get me in the room with people who I can guide and actually make a difference?
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. May I have your help
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah, I'd love to rip you to pieces right now. Okay, let's see. Um,
Rip me to pieces. I'm just a baby.
in a loving 2551 way. Um, your not self is the 6124. Well, no, sorry, that's not your not self. Your not self is the open centers, but your 6124 is called the return. So you're going to get a hold of one question and you're going to try to answer it, and it's going to eat at you over and over again. How do I become the master? How do I become the master? How do I become the master? I need to prove that I'm a master because human design says that projectors need to master something. And now you're off in the not self human design rabbit hole, trying to figure out how you're going to fulfill your purpose and impact the people in your life. And impact is the manifestor word. You have an open throat like I do. We're not here for impact.
Mhm.
Your question is, well, first and foremost, projectors need to master relaxation, and we need to master slowness. So if you're not there, forget about anything else, because you're not going to get the invitations that you require, because people don't want to invite a projector that's not relaxed and that's not in flow and feeling like, oh, healthy. I want to invite this person. So that's our first thing we have to master, is like self-love and doing nothing. Okay, that takes a long time. Uh, then in terms of like, because we are here to learn, we are here to be intellectual. The only way you get there is the question, who are you? You have to get interested in people in your life. And through those relationships and those people, you're going to bump into something that you just can't look away from, that you just want to study, that you just that it just comes so natural to you that you're going to, of course, study this thing. Of course, this is your area of expertise. For me, it was human design. I never wanted to master human design. I was just so in love with the information and the way it was impacting my life, because I went on a date and it hit me, third line, you know, that here I find myself here now. So you have to just get in the embodiment of your design and let it come to you. You can't, as a projector, figure out what it's going to be, especially if you're in a place of stressing out about it, or in a mental state of, I'm going to figure my life out. I'm going to decide what I want to study. I didn't decide I wanted to study human design. I told myself a million times, don't study this. This isn't you. This isn't going to be your thing. Like the mind doesn't get to choose. The mind doesn't get to figure it out. That's the whole point of this system, is like, it's not going to make sense to you. So if we're stuck in this question, you're missing being a projector. You're missing bumping into the people that are interesting, that are actually going to be carrying an opportunity that is going to be your thing, that you're going to study or that you're going to master. It's like it's so fucked for this design, with mental definition and splenic authority. It's like it's such it's like the eternal battle is what's represented in your chart here. It's like the mind wants to be in control, the mind wants to figure it out, the mind wants to make your life make sense, the mind wants to plan how you're going to make money and set yourself up for the future and retirement. And you're meant to live a life of not knowing anything until it's existentially hitting you over the head in the moment. For yourself. It's like, you can think about surfing, or you can go get your board and paddle out in the water. Those are your two options. You can study how the technique is going to be and what you should do when a big wave comes at you, and what's the etiquette. You can start to mentally study all that, or you go get on a board and you go out in the water and you have it happen to you. These are your two options. But I get that question, just so you know, it's so normal in the beginning to think, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to study? I'm a projector. How am I going to be a projector? Oh, I'm here to be a master. Okay, what does that mean? What am I going to study? How am I going to become a master? It's what's screwing us up in the first place. So this is why I said that post about a year. Have a year where you don't figure it out. Have a year where you don't want to master anything. Have a year where you're like, I'm just going to exist for an entire year, and I'm not going to figure anything out other than, how do I surf by doing it? How do I get interested in the people around me? How do I start to love my relationships? This is it's such a beautiful representation of human design, the chart that you have, because we're here to be intellectual beings. We are. You have such a brilliant, unique mind. It's a huge part of your purpose, the way that you inspire others. But you don't get to choose what you're going to inspire others with. They get to decide based on the invitations that are coming your way and what bumps into you. And you don't get to decide who that is either. That's the crazy part about this whole experiment. I didn't get to choose any of my best friends now. They just came to me after I started being weird and letting my weirdness out. They just showed up, you know? But if you're trying to be a manifester and trying to figure it out and trying to have impact, because we all want to have impact, now you're in making self decisions, and it's going to be a difficult road.
Hmm. Yeah, when you shared or when you just said like the take a year thing, I felt my body relax and I also felt some tears. Like that recognition of truth feels so good in my body too. That idea of like spending a good amount of time without trying to like do anything or accomplish anything. And yeah, this is another area in my life where I feel like one of the things that, or it makes it hard for me to relax and really feel good about just
Okay. She's frozen, right? It's not just me. Yeah. Okay. Okay, she'll be back. She has to think about it for a little bit. But it's such a great question, and this is the main problem with these systems is we have to take it in mentally at first, and then we decide that we're going to use it in the way that we want to use it. And the whole point is, wait a second, my mind isn't supposed to make the decisions for me, and it is in full decision-making mode for me now because it thinks it got the secret. But the secret isn't for the mind. It's for the body. The secret is actually shut the fuck up, you know. The secret's like yeah, I'm gonna take the year and watch what spontaneously hit shows up. Um, yeah, Gabby,
the heck.
did you raise your hand?
It's not my computer died.
Oh, you're back.
I'm trying to be. My computer's okay, there we go. May I finish what I was saying?
Please.
Sorry. Um yeah, basically I am feeling not good in the space that I'm living in. Actually, I feel good in a lot of ways, but uh like it's adequate,
Hmm.
but my circadian rhythm isn't really supported here and there's not really any outdoor space and I just don't feel really supported to like relax here. Like I can totally just like rot in bed here.
Yeah.
I can lay around, I can, but it doesn't feel like a relaxed way of doing nothing. It feels more like a stagnant way of doing nothing.
Sure.
And I'm feeling this sense of like, oh, my environment's not supporting me, my environment's not
Mhm.
correct. And um yeah, so I'm just trying to be with that and like not make any like decisions out of like fear or like try to because I don't want to like move and make a wrong decision, basically. I don't necessarily have any like great options right now anyway, but I guess the reason I'm bringing it up is because I would love input on that and just
Yeah.
any reassurance or like guidance.
I'd say if you're not happy in your environment, to move. To if you can, just move, go somewhere different, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and to think about like what's not working for you, you know, and if it's your surroundings with an open G center, it's going to be really difficult for you to change your life in that similar environment that you're feeling is keeping you stuck. And it may be a mental decision, but in my experience, it's like shake it up, do something different, like just
Mhm.
change things until you start to get some awareness or other opportunities come to you. But if you're thinking like I need to make these perfect decisions, and your environment is honestly what is holding you back, which hey, may be true. It doesn't mean the mind makes only bad decisions. Sometimes it probably knows some stuff about ourselves, you know. Who knows? But for
Mhm.
me, I hear you just wanting to get it perfect and wanting to get it right. And then
Mhm.
that is what's actually keeping you stagnant instead of learning. You're a third line. You're supposed to screw up. If you haven't screwed up enough times, you're supposed to screw up spontaneously. This is what this design says. I'm a splenic
Mhm.
1-3. It's like you're supposed to really um, just like I'm such a component of if it's not working, like just shake it and then let the chips fall again and see maybe this is a better configuration for you. Uh,
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really what I needed to hear. And yeah, I'm just really aware, and I think a lot of other people in here can probably relate to this, but like I'm aware of this fear of like the people in my life getting tired of me like doing things and making decisions and making changes and seeming unstable, right? Like seeming like I'm doing things that are irresponsible. And I feel like some like tenderness and sadness around this because it's like, in order for me to like be authentic and like follow myself, I feel like there's this risk or this fear of like the people I care about writing me off or like making me wrong because I'm trying to like fuck around and find out, which is like my design is a 3-5. And so yeah, I think it's just really helpful to be in this space. I'm like looking forward to the projector lounge as well. And this class has helped me so much to feel a sense of support and like a sense of like, okay, I'm not just gonna like fall into the abyss. Like if I make a wrong decision, if people don't understand it and just stop supporting me or stop caring about me, um, it's really cool to have this like web of people who get it.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So thank you.
I really feel you. Um, my dad last month told me, would you ever consider just like getting a normal job for like the time being? I'm like, I've been doing this for it's just I don't know if it's his love language or what the fuck, or they just want you to be safe, and
Mhm.
living a life that's real. We know it's not it's not that way. And when you look at how you're designed, you're really someone who's here to be spontaneous and to show everybody that we're safe, even when it may look unstable. It's okay. You're a 28, line 3. This is the gate of the game player and the risk taker. You're someone who's really here to show us that, hey, if you don't take any risks in this life, then there's going to be no meaning for you. You may be stable and safe, but you're not going to have much fun, and it's going to be a really disempowering experience of life. So let me trigger people. But what I really hear from you is it's just conditioning, and then you take it on yourself, and it's actually you that's feeling that you're inadequate and that you're not responsible and that this is the voice that's coming from you now. It's conditioned by all the people around you. So it's
Mm.
like, how can I start to, if this is really your truth, it's like you got to declare it and say, okay, I'm going to at least try it for a bit. And then once you do that, you're able to start really loving yourself regardless of the voices that still come, because you do find groups like this where, it's like, look at my life. Like my father still thinks I'm irresponsible. And I've had like the most
Mm.
amazing 5 years of my entire life. Like if I were to die tomorrow, I could honestly say like I had the best ride ever. Like I could seriously say that. And I don't have tons of money. I'm nomadic for the last 2 years. I don't even have a place to live, but I feel it coming. So I just want to be uh like I've gotten to a point where those voices, I still feel them, but I realize where they're coming from now. And this is why it can be so helpful for you as a projector to get interested in the people around you. Because when they say these things, you know why they're saying them. You know why they want you to feel that way. This is where, you have to dissect all the people in your life's charts. And so you can see their insecurities. And when they speak to you that way, you understand that it's coming from a place of love and their own shit. My dad's a self-projected projector workaholic. I think he looks at me and
Mm.
sees like, fuck, I wish I could have lived a life like this. this looks way more fun than what I did. And he provided so much for us. He made all the money. He like really set us up for a beautiful childhood and life. So I could see there's probably resentment there that I didn't
Mm.
take what he's given me and walk the line like he did. So to me, like being a projector, I come to more understanding and self-love of myself when I begin to forgive everybody in my life and be able to see why they do the things that they do, even when it doesn't feel good for me.
Mhm. Yeah, and like find that like inner pillar in ourselves of trust in the process, or like, yeah, like if I feel like I have a sense of foundation in my own decision making, or at least that I'm present with it and that I can handle whatever comes, even if it's not perfect, then I'm not like looking outwards to other people's approval.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's more of it takes human design has taken any sense of responsibility off me for anything. I look at my design, I'm like, that's the design I got. It resonates so deeply. I know it's my truth. Sorry, world, but I'm gonna be me. I didn't get to pick it. I would much rather be an investment banker. My mind says, living in a stable situation somewhere, like doing it by the book and feeling normal. Like that's what my mind would probably choose, honestly. But it's like I've never felt more alive. I've never felt more on my purpose. I've never felt more of a sense of vitality and beauty and love and connection than I do right now
Mhm.
being me. And if you look at a 1-3 splenic ego projector, it's like, fuck, I got such a weird existential design that is not going to make sense to my father, not going to make sense to so many people that I grew up with because it's just so weird. So to me, it's like get rid of any sense of responsibility that you're in control of any of this, and you picked this life of a splenic projector. This is what you got, and you have two choices. You can be comfortable and please the people around you and be normal, or you can really take a courageous step out into what you know to be your inner truth and watch it get better and better and better. Those are kind of my two experiences.
Hmm. Well, there's so much more that I could share, but I want to
Okay.
leave space for others, and I also know that
Nathan's
it's
been
getting
patiently
later.
patiently waiting.
What's that?
And
Oh yeah, Gabby.
Nathan's
All
been
right.
patiently waiting. But I
Thank you
just
so
really
much.
appreciate your share, Sam. I know exactly where you're at, and it's really scary and it's not normal. And like it's so valid to have these feelings. And I still have these emotions and I still go through periods where my mind is like, you're so irresponsible, and that
Mhm.
voice is still loud after 5 years. So I just want you to feel like you're not alone. I go through them still.
Mhm.
It just has almost zero ability to make a decision for me anymore. And I can start to see the love in the people who want me to be safe and do it normal. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Mhm. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Gabby, do you have a question? Okay, quickly, and then we'll move. Nathan needs to share, and we're way past. I'm cool with it if you guys are all. We can go a little bit longer today. Okay. Yeah, you have 3 seconds to figure out how to unmute, and then we're moving to Nathan. Not kidding. I cannot pressure the solar plexus. I'm sorry, Gabby. Let me see if I can do it.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. My
Yeah.
computer is having a brain fart. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that.
Um,
Um, yeah, the whole projector are here to master something subject. I've also been trying to figure that out. But isn't like the one thing that I've seen other people in human design speak about is really like studying the things that light you up or that excite you, that you find interesting. Like, isn't like, how does that come into play? Or
No, I think that's a given. That's a cross type. Like whatever, like that's like the universal truth. We're supposed to do what we love to do. Why do I love human design and someone else loves something else? It's not random. It's like imprinted in us to guide us to fulfill our purpose. So you're going to find that thing that's just like it's a no-brainer. Like when I read human design, I signed up for the 3 courses instantly. And I had no intention of teaching it, no intention of doing anything. I'm just like, this is incredible. I'm going to study it. So for sure.
Yeah, I think maybe I got a little bit confused because what you were saying earlier, it kind of, or I heard it as you weren't necessarily maybe interested in human design, but it was like,
Oh, no.
but yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
Instant
That was,
obsession,
yeah,
not being able
yeah.
to put it down. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's more like just removing the expectations of how can I make money with this and all of that.
It's like, I think so many people know what they're interested in and they can't mentally figure out how it's going to take them towards a path of abundance and what they want in this life. So they just ignore it. That's, I think, mostly what happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Every step of the way in my human design journey, my mind was like, you're not going to do this. And then I did it. You're not going to do this. And then I did it. You're not going to, it was like, I can almost follow what my mind says not to do as like my truth and my path to greatness. All right, Nathan, thanks for being so patient.
I've built up so much anxious energy knowing that I was last. I can feel it building in me. I don't, well, I was just going to kind of share a couple of experiences that I had with the spleen, to be honest. Sam, I feel you 100% on that with what you're saying. I do the same thing. And AI chatbots, I just can't help myself but to go on them and ask all of the questions to kind of tell me what to do because my mind is just going crazy. Like, well, I want to find out and figure it out. So my chatbot is very much my best friend at the moment, which I'm going to try and stop. But yeah, for me, it was even like a scenario yesterday. I wanted to go to like my favorite coffee shop, but for some reason my body was saying kind of no, you can't go. But I was like, fuck you, I'm going because I like my coffee. Walked, and it's a 40-minute walk. I walked 40 minutes up there, and I see that there's no lights on. And I just, for some reason, just ignored it. And even halfway up, thought I'm going to Google just to make sure it's open. I thought, nope, I'm not doing that either. I took my phone out, I looked at it, and I was like, no, put it back in. So I could have saved myself another 20-minute walk. But yeah, that was one little scenario. But I think for me, I actually find it difficult with the yes for the spleen, which is what you've kind of shared when you feel that wave of fear afterwards. I can't really resonate with feeling that in the past, but I can with the no. And when I've made that decision that's the wrong decision, and I try to force that decision, it's like a weight gets heavier and heavier and heavier on me until I release it. And it's only when I release it, then I feel this like expansion, and then it's like amazing. Usually to the detriment of someone else around me, but yeah, it feels really good, and I know that I should have made that decision a long time ago, but just it's the people pleasing side of me that's just kind of held on. And a really random one, when you were talking about the spleen, I remember working in an office and we had an office dog, and it was one of those moments where my mind couldn't have remotely figured this out or thought of it at all. You know when a dog wants to be sick, and you get that gag reflex, that sound. Within a split second, I'd gone over to the dog, like jumped out of my seat, jumped into the dog, chucked him out the door, and he threw up outside. And everyone looked at me and was like, whoa, how did you do that? No one heard the dog gag or anything. And it just, yeah. And when you were talking about that, it just came to me, and I thought I'd never understood why that happened. It was just like, I just heard him and jumped up and got him out the door. But it was that splenic sort of feeling. Yeah. And I could feel very much this anxious energy in me. I need to go jumping around or something. I don't know what's going on. My voice feels very weird. But yeah, I feel like I could speak very quickly right now. I don't know why, but I'll stop.
What's coming up for you now?
I have no idea. I think this was just because I knew that I was last, and I was just waiting for it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, it's building up in me. Loads of things came up through the when you guys were talking about it, but I can't now remember what most of it was. But yeah, I guess there was one thing actually, the root to the spleen connection. I feel more in flow when I'm moving, and
Mhm.
I've read about that, and I thought, oh, okay, that just means I need to go to the gym or go for a run or something.
Mhm.
But I'm actually starting to think it's more interacting with the world more
Mhm.
through movement than it is just to go and like go for a run to get rid of that energy sort of thing that's more stress or pressure that's built up.
Yeah.
So yeah, my
Yeah.
voice is going mad.
I no, it's a great point. I always tell splenic people, if you're sitting at home mentally trying to process something, walk out your door, get up and go for a walk. Like that's when things are going to come to you, is in movement. And I think I talked about this a little bit last time. I really think inner authority like requires movement for us to process. Like our body is alive. So sitting and being mental, it's like the worst thing for us to tap into the physical, especially if you're splenic, because the spleen is about that danger aspect, the survival aspect. So when things are coming, it feels much more healthy than when we're comfortable. Like being uncomfortable as a splenic person physically, I think can be very healthy for you because the body can react the way it needs to. So that's a great point. I always tell people like, hey, if you're not sure, get the fuck out of your house. Like go walk around, move, like do something. Like you always have we're invited to be alive. Ra used to say like projectors are invited to by life. So we're here. We're always okay to initiate something. It may not be correct for us in this moment, but do it anyways, and it's gonna put you on another path or another sign to come your way or another experience to have. It's life is always trying to align us. It's not like you make a bad decision and now we're so far off the path that life gives up on us and life tells us we're irresponsible and the universe is like, fuck Travis, he made a bad decision. Like we're not going to help him out anymore. I feel like it's so easy to go to that place of like, I'm naughty, I'm bad. The universe, I've messed up too many times. And I don't know why I'm going this direction, but just the moving, I think, is so important for all of us.
Yeah, definitely. And having conversations with other people when you go out moving, I find just bumping into random people it can just feel really nice. I actually went for a drive the other day for about an hour. And I don't usually do that. I just thought I just need to move. It didn't necessarily need to be physically moving, but some sort of movement. I went to a farm shop and had a coffee there and ended up having a good conversation with the waitress there. So yeah, it was just a nice thing, and that made me feel so much better. And then I came back and felt a little bit bitter again, but at the time it was I was like, I got a little bit of a release, so yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And another great point, Nathan, is like as projectors, our question is, who are you? If there's no one around us, we are really lonely creatures.
Mm.
It's like we can't be in our purpose by ourselves. So if we're again not wanting to ask anybody that question, it's like, oh, what a disempowering experience. I feel like I'm irresponsible. Well, I'm not in my purpose. Money would fix everything. No, you need more people. You need more people in your life. And growing up
Yeah.
is so funny for me because I hated everybody. I just hate people. That was literally my slogan. Like I hate people. People are stupid. None of this makes any sense. Like I just hate everybody for years and years and years. And now I'm a projector and my question is, who are you? It's so hilarious. Now I just like can't get enough of people. So that's such a great point. Just to have an interaction with the waitress at a restaurant can be so fulfilling to our projector soul because we got
Yeah.
to have an interaction with somebody.
Yeah. It's like a medicine, I think.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
really nice.
Yeah. Such a good point. Yeah, okay. We have one more authority really quickly. It's the mental projector. And their process is more like the emotional process, where it really takes time for them to come to a conclusion. And their strategy of being a mental projector, or not their strategy, but their authority is called soundboarding. And so this is where we say, okay, if you're a mental projector, it's so important for them to have a lot of different people in their life that they can speak to And they get to hear their voice like the G projector, but the G projector is spontaneous. It's whatever's coming out. This is my truth. Like they can really hear it in the now, this love that's being manifested. Whereas the mental projector, it's more of a process that takes time. So the more people that they have to speak to, different parts of them through their electromagnetic connections are going to get hooked up, and then they're going to hear a different quality. They're going to get something else from that person, and then they're going to get something else from that person, and then over time they link enough of these things together, they come to some rationalization, realization of what their truth is. So mental projectors, they have a really, it's such a difficult design, I think, to have, and they are so different than the other types of projectors that we talked about, that they really have, to think that your mind isn't your authority, but it's the only thing that they have consistent in their design. It's even an odd concept to think about. So again, their whole point in decision making is, how many people do I have around me that I can trust to say, hey, I just need to speak about this. I don't want your advice. I don't need direction. Like I just need to speak about this with you, so that I can get some sort of understanding for myself because of what's hooked up in the connection, in the electromagnetic connection between people. So that's kind of the theory for the mental projector, and they go through a long process of coming to terms with how they are meant to make decisions in this life, and it can be very confusing for them in the beginning to have a design like that. But Ra always said that the mental projector was here to be the guide of the guides. So they're really here to be kind of at the top of this hierarchy and understand this stuff in a very unique way. But it can take them a long time to get there, and it can be really confusing in the beginning. But you'll find with these people also that they've already, I don't think I've met a mental projector who already didn't soundboard. It comes so natural to them. They do find themselves speaking about the decisions that they need to make. So it tends to really be comforting to them when they get to hear that, and they're like, oh yeah, I already do that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I need to take time. I need to come to my own understanding, because remember, when the mental system's defined, this is their unique way of thinking. This is one way, and they have to make it make sense for them. They have to really come to their own understanding before they're going to take guidance from anybody else or believe in anything else. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I've worked with a lot of mental projectors. I do feel such a difference in their aura and their energy than I do with other types of projectors. Any questions about the soundboarding authority? No. Okay, I think that's everything. Any questions? I'm bad at goodbyes. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot of information. If you are fascinated with human design, I know people who say there's so many people doing human design, I can't do human design. It's not true. There's never going to be enough people who know this information. So if it is something passionate for you, you may be like me, where your mind is telling you you're not this person and you're not going to do something like this. But it is for sure possible. When you look at how many astrologers there are compared to human design practitioners, it's not even a drop in the bucket. And you will have the people who need this information. And moving towards the shift of 2027, there's going to be a whole lot of people who need this information. And there is no such thing as competition between people. It's not a real concept. It's made up by capitalism, and nature always supports each other. And someone who wants to get a reading from me versus get a reading from you, it's just going to be a different resonance. That's it. It's not I'm better or you're better or whatever. It's just this person is on your fractal and this person's on my fractal. Maybe they work with both of us. It's been so helpful for me to see this, and for me to unlearn my jealousy and unlearn my competitiveness and unlearn my desire for other people not to do well so that I could do well. It's not real. So we really are just here to support each other, and projectors, more than any other type, need to recognize that we need each other. We need to be the champion for each other. So if this is something that you love just because there's no reason, I highly recommend and invite you to take the next courses, or to come into my projector group, or to just keep studying whatever way that you want. And yeah, you just don't. We need human design people, because the real essence of it is super watered down out there. There's not much good quality information that you can find. So when people come across someone who's taken this course, or who knows raw, or who has gone through their own experience of it, it's just so helpful. And I don't know what's coming, and what the world's going to do, but this has just been the most empowering information I've ever experienced. And I know that if you guys are here, then you've felt some version of that for you. So if you think, yeah, one of my biggest not self things was like, I can't do this because there's so many people already doing it. And to me, that seems to be one of the biggest not self voices that you hear of, like, I can't be a photographer. There's so many photographers out there. How many people make it being an artist? Oh my God, there's musicians. It's like our mind is really good at telling us what we can't do because of bullshit reasons that it made up. So if it lights your soul on fire, go for it. And if it doesn't make sense, then even better. It's probably a good sign that you're on the right track. And yeah, I thank you so much for being here, and I learned so much during these, and I feel so supported as well. And it's just so great to have a community of weirdos who are on a path to really saying fuck you to everybody that's telling you the way it's supposed to go, and that you're here for something bigger. I think is probably what I will say. If you've come across this information, then I really believe that you have a major role to play in the shift that's coming, and it's not going well out there. And a lot of people are going to need support. And if you're solid in who you are, and you're the first one to say, all right, I'm out of this way we've been doing it, then people are going to really look to you for guidance, because it's coming. So many people are going to be losing their jobs. Like it's the school system's gone pretty much already. Like Trump is taking a hammer and a sledgehammer to literally the way that the United States has operated for its entirety. So there's a massive shift coming, and this, I think, is the most beautiful way to see it, and to surrender to it, and to realize it's just happening the way it's supposed to happen. And we get to watch the movie, and we get to be ourselves while it's all going down. So yeah, I just invite you to continue to pursue human design if that's something that excites you. And then I'll send our last email, and I'll put some other resources in there for you guys. I'll do some more, a few more audios from Ra based on your unique design. And then I'll give you my teacher's contact information if you want to continue to go down the path of the IHDS. And yeah, anything else that comes to me in that moment, I'll stick it in that last email. But again, thank you so much. I really connected with each and every one of you, and it's like my most cohesive group, I feel like. And the chat was amazing, and the shares and the vulnerability, and truly you make my life meaningful. So thanks. Can't wait to see how we connect again. And I do have a retreat that I'll be facilitating day 1 in Lofoten in the north of Norway, which is the most magical place I've ever been in my entire life. And it's going to be, yeah, it's really going to be something. So there's that option as well. All right. Any final words? I think we can just sign off. And
Thank you, Travis.
yeah, my
Love
pleasure.
it.